So Jeremy Corbyn in the back of Parliament saying, how do you know?
How do you know? Yeah, how do you know?
Well, the security services are telling us that this is what's happening. That's how we know. So Keir Starmer's gone full right-wing mode on his immigration policy with his new white paper that was released yesterday, at least according to a bunch of upset accounts on X who are now attacking Keir Starmer in response to his post saying that he's released this new white paper when he says, my government is taking back control of our borders, here's how. And then released the white paper, which I'll come back to in a moment. Some of these use expletives, so I won't read those bits out. I won't put them on screen because YouTube sometimes limits videos like that. They sometimes limit comments like that as well because they like to keep it a family-friendly platform. But nonetheless, I can read some of these out sans the bad language. So in direct response to Keir Starmer's post on X, you understand, here's a few of those comments. Racist, fascist, expletive. You really are right-wing expletive stooge, aren't you? You're talking like a right-wing conservative politician. Labour need to get a coup to get Starmer out now. They're losing the next general election anyway. Better to have a Labour-principled party with a chance at the next general election than a three-way right-wing fight between Tory, Starmer and Reform. Keir Starmer, somebody else comments, has surrounded himself with a very right-wing cabinet office and advisors and has lost all Labour's key values. They are saying expletive to the British public. They are appeasing Reform and the wealthiest 1%. Sad days for Starmer's Labour Party. Somebody else chimes in and says, I'm sorry, is your campaign that the Tories weren't right-wing enough? Another comment, also heavily reliant on expletives, says, "Oi, you cross-eyed expletive. With a personality of a wet paper bag, sprouting right-wing talking points won't make you the favourite of Tory voters. So don't try to be a Tory-lite. Why would they vote for an expletive politician like you when they have their own sleazy ones?" Expletive. And this goes on and on. So these are all there for your ongoing entertainment or otherwise. I just draw the caveat, don't say too many harsh words or you might get a knock at the door from police if you've been watching my previous videos. But I have to say they could have chosen a better day to release this white paper because, as misfortune would have it, 400 or 600 or more, as it's been reported since this one post here, illegal migrants arrived across the channel in small boats on the very day that they released this white paper. Now, let's go back a moment to look at what other people have quoted Keir Starmer to have said previously on the issue of migration, and then we can perhaps decide whether he's gone back on his previous word, because let's be fair, some people did vote for Keir Starmer, do like Keir Starmer, and would be upset that if he's changed his views. So let's take a look at what his previous views were, courtesy of Kemi Badenoch here, with the posing the question, can you trust this man? I put it to you, can you trust this man? Let's have a listen to this.
We need to make the wider case on immigration. We welcome migrants.
People
Should immigration be reduced?
Well, I don't believe in numbers and I don't believe in salary gaps.
We've always welcomed people to work in this country. We could get a more positive route which didn't take us into the place of numbers or quotas or you're only worth having it, you can earn a certain amount of money.
What about foreign nationals living in the UK? Should they get a vote?
I would like us to look at that.
The Labour Party's been a bit scared of making the positive case for immigration for quite a number of years. I think we need to turn that round. The whole of the United Kingdom is better because of immigration.
So before I play the today's bit, there is one I want to go back to, which you may have skipped over because it was very quick. But just to summarise that whole thing, he didn't want a cap on numbers. He didn't want a cap on salaries. He didn't want to limit how many people can come here based on how much they earn. I'm not expressing views here. I'm just recapping what he said before people shoot me down in the comments again. But let's have a listen to this little snippet here that you may have missed. Listen very carefully.
What about foreign nationals living in the UK? Should they get a vote?
I would like us to look at that.
So he was looking at foreign nationals coming to the UK to get the vote, just in case that wasn't clear. But then we go back to what he said recently.
So yes, I believe in this. I believe we need to reduce immigration significantly.
So there posed the question, can you trust him? Now, I have to say that he seems to be getting it. He seems to be getting the idea, at least, that people are upset about immigration numbers. Now, I must stress and caveat here that not all migration is bad, because after all, my wife is Chinese, she came here, and obviously we went through what I would describe as a horrendous process, and I describe it like that because it's in contrast to those that come here illegally and how they are treated, and I find it a personal insult when it was quite clear, it's quite obvious that we were in a genuine relationship, and this includes getting the spouse visa. I've done a long video talking about that and the proof and the hurdles we had to go through, which I accept are correct. We should prove that it was a real relationship, but just the intrusion to privacy, providing 2 years worth of private messages and all sorts of stuff to prove we're in a real relationship, it was frankly insulting. But as I said, I've got a lengthy video talking about that. So there's the caveat. Not all migration is bad. And of course we have skilled migration. This is part of what we'll talk about in this video. Skilled migration and high value workers that can come here and contribute to society. But Keir Starmer seems to have got the idea that people are upset about the net number of migration that is coming here. So this is the white paper. I'm not going to bore you by reading large chunks of it out, but what I will do is I have read it and I have made some bullet points notes on it because it's a lengthy document. I might point to 1 or 2 paragraphs in it. But what I am going to do is give you my very broad views on this, a very high level view, having read it for the first time, and whether I think this has got a chance of working. Now, the first red herring, if you like, I would take from Yvette Cooper's comments that these changes, particularly targeting those on low-skilled visas, etc., closure of social care visa routes, could overall reduce net migration by up to around 50,000. However, the reason I say that that's possibly a red herring is because of the numbers of illegal, or what they call irregular migration, arriving in the UK every single year. Because if these changes are going to take time to implement, and they will take time to implement, they're not all coming about immediately. They are going to take time to implement. Some of them probably the rest of this year, some of them a year or two, some of them many more years to really come into play. Because there'll be doubtless several rules, etc., that mean that some of these are not applied straight away to certain individuals in midst application and so on. But over those years, there will be a number of, we don't know how many, obviously, but there will be a number of illegal migrants arriving in the UK every year. Now, that 50,000 figure that's been sort of plucked out and estimated could be wiped out, theoretically, in 1 year of illegal migration if the numbers continue to rise, because of the tens of thousands that have arrived per year already. So at the very least, in a year or two, that 50,000 can be completely wiped out. And so if what they're saying is all of these measures that they put in place here could reduce net migration by about 50,000, that is broadly wiped out. And so with great respect to all those that have put this paper together, which is a lot of work to put this paper together, I think in many respects, it misses one of the key points. And I think it misses the point that a lot of people are upset about. I think a lot of people are upset, not just about the abuse of the system that allows people to claim asylum here and to come here on low-skilled visa routes and all those sort of things, such as the social care visa routes, excuse me. And I saw and I heard an interview just yesterday or the day before regarding somebody explaining quite candidly how they were able to abuse this system, whereby they had somebody set up a company under the guise of being a social care company. They applied and the company became the sponsor for them to come across on one of these low-skilled social care visa routes. And it was all a sham. And obviously when they were here, they moved to other routes or whatever. And so this is a clear abuse of the system, and they are clearly aware of the abuse of the system here. So whilst a lot of people, I think, are upset about that, they are also upset about the real illegal migration via small boats, etc. And again, usual caveat, some people do need help and they deserve that help. I've done that enough times by now. But I think this paper and this approach broadly misses that point to quite a large extent. And if I bring the white paper on screen right now, we can see here the admissions that over recent years, proper control and management of the immigration system has been lost, While much attention's been rightly focused on the surge in illegal migration across the Channel, reaching a peak of 45,000 small boat arrivals in 2022, there's been less focus on the rapid increase in the levels of net migration since 2019. But again, there I say, here's where those numbers just don't hang together. If all of these measures might reduce by 50,000, then that could be wiped out if these numbers creep up to that again. Because as the records show here, and it's quite candid, there's been a rise from 224,000 net migration in 1 year, in the year to June 2019, up to a record high of 906,000 in 1 year in the year ending June 2023, a fourfold increase in the space of 4 years. And so this then obviously doesn't set out the 1.2, at least that we know of, million illegal migrants in the UK at the moment, on top of the 10,000 odd criminals that are here, who are already here illegally, but they are criminals and they are here illegally nonetheless. This paper doesn't really address that, save that it says later this summer we will set out further reforms to the asylum system and border security response to irregular and illegal migration, including plans for new legislation bringing on new measures already set out. But in this paper, we set out reforms to legal migration so that we can restore order, control, and fairness in the system, bring down net migration, and promote economic growth. And then it goes on to say, first, net migration must come down. Second, the immigration system must be linked to skills. That's a point I'll come back to. Third, the system must be fair and effective. That's another point I have to come back to. And fourth, the rules must be respected and enforced, from a crackdown on illegal working to the deportation of foreign criminals. But again, in reverse order, and with great respect, this fails to address the illegal migration properly and fails to address the deportation of foreign criminals properly. Instead, as it admits, it focuses on bringing down net migration by focusing on the skills. So let's deal with what it doesn't address, first of all. There's nothing in it about deporting the 10,000 odd criminals that are here illegally. There's nothing in it concrete about stopping the boats. There's nothing in it about the 1.2 million or so that are already here illegally, that are already costing the taxpayers money. There's nothing in it about removing the benefits and the attraction of coming here in the first place, via the hotels, the money, and everything else that they get when they are here. And if people don't believe that's the case, go to the government website. It's all on there, and I've covered it before. There's nothing in it really about curbing the real cost of those that are here and the 30 to 50,000 per year that will arrive every year. And in fact, the reports of the increasing costs has gone up to £15 billion over the next so many years. So that said, those are what's not in here. What is in here is an increase on the route to indefinite leave to remain for skilled migrants and so on from 5 years to 10 years. But even then, there's problems with that. Not only is that going to, well, it's going to increase the fees and all the applications and everything for the skilled migrants that we probably do want in this country, and it's going to deter them coming to this country in the first place because it's going to increase the costs, it's going to increase the time frame, and at best it might push them onto other routes, or it might deter them from coming here at all. And the white paper doesn't really seem to address the alternative pathways properly, and therefore those that would otherwise have gone for the 5-year route instead of going for the 10-year route might look for other ways to do that instead, such as multiple visas on different grounds, or visas based on rights to a private life, etc. Now, the paper does deal with looking at a framework to try to ensure that judges are going to be clearer about what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, such as the recent stories you've heard of, which are absolutely true, where deportation was stopped because the child didn't like chicken nuggets, deportation that was stopped because the chap was gay and he would be treated badly in his home country. The other case that was stopped because he'd committed a heinous offence here and would be treated badly because of that offence if he was sent back. So all these different reasons are real cases. This paper does say that it's going to draw up a framework, or it doesn't say what, to make it clear. The problem with that is judges will be judges, and judges will make their decisions based on the articles of the ECHR, as they would anyway. Framework be damned, and I believe that they will still make those decisions. And those decisions, if they believe them to be right, they will make those decisions, then they'll be open to appeal. And these delays take 2-3 years each, and multiply that by, however many thousand go through that system, and you still have a recipe for a long-winded, expensive problem. And so, again, some of those are just frankly not going to work. As I mentioned, the white paper does say that they will end the overseas recruitment for social care visas in line with the wider reforms to the skills threshold. Many of these skills thresholds being elevated, which is a double-edged sword. It means that it will require those who are truly skilled to come here, but it's also going to potentially deter much global talent from coming here. So again, that can be viewed in a number of ways. But then we come on to refugee employment, which is another potential loophole, which again could exacerbate these numbers. It says refugees who've had to leave their home country because of persecution often lack the opportunity to apply for jobs and skilled worker visas in the UK, even where they have the talent and training to do so. Drawing from the experience of the Displaced Talent Programme, we will explore reforms to allow a limited pool of United Nations High Commission for Refugees, recognise refugees and displaced people living overseas to apply for employment through our existing sponsored worker routes where they have the skills to do so. So that is a potential loophole. Anything like this can be exploited and will be exploited, and they will have to make sure they crack down on that to make sure that that isn't the case. This is the section dealing with the ECHR and setting up the framework. It says there's long been family rules and entitlements within the UK for close family members to reunite across borders. Long story short, they're going to draw up a framework which will reflect a fair balance between individual circumstances and the UK economic and social interest, will be flexible enough to ensure the most vulnerable are not excluded. And of course, per my caveat, that's right. That's the way that it should be. And we need to make sure that that's not exploited. Then we come on to the actual removal and deportation process. As this admits, it's long and complex. And again, in many cases, it's open to legal challenge. That takes several years. Legal and other issues raised by people in detention can delay and sometimes prevent removal. Home Office analysis show that issues raised by those in detention have led to a steady reduction in the total administrative return rate for those on detention, from 3 in 5 in 2010 to just under 1 in 5 in 2022. So under 1 in 5 return rate in 2022. Figures show that enforced returns of all types steeply fell between 2012 and 2019. Full 2025 figures not available, but 6,339 enforced returns, a stark contrast to the social media, let's call them adverts of what they're up to, for 24,000 returns. It's 6,339 returns between July 24 and March 25. Then it comes on to tackling abuse. We've set up the Border Security Command, etc. But this has been set up for some time now. They now say they're going to give it new counter-terrorism style powers introduced with legislation. I saw on an interview, I think Yvette Cooper, saying that they've now agreed with France, and this is how it should have been all along, Brexit or not. This is really how it should have been all along, with two countries that are sensible in talks with each other. It should have always been the case that France will police its waters and prevent people leaving its waters into British waters. We've seen news reports where they've been escorting people across the channel rather than bringing them back. Yvette Cooper says they've now reached an agreement whereby they will police their waters and bring them back. And I see no reason why that shouldn't extend to our Border Security Command, handing them over in the waters to French escorts to take them back to France, because that's where they came from. Nonetheless, you can see the stark uptick in asylum claims, which has driven this white paper released yesterday. Another section which really does convince me that this is really out of the playbook of either Reform and Conservatives and a combination of the two and a few others, but the English language requirements, it says there's currently no requirements on English proficiency for adult dependents arriving on many of work and student routes. Using published immigration statistics in the year ending December 2024, there are over 190,000 entry clearance visas issued to dependents. And while those choose to come to the UK are likely to have a better standard of English than the average level in their home country, half of the visas issued to dependents are from countries with overall low proficiency in English when applying for education first. So it says those who wish to build their lives in the UK need to learn to speak and understand English so they can integrate into life in this country by getting a job or improving their prospects of work, accessing and making good use of local services, becoming part of community life and contributing to society. This goes hand in hand with the complaints about, for example, signs written above London Underground being written in different languages. Many people complaining that they should just only be in English. For example, don't shoot the messenger. I'm reporting to you what people said and think. And Cyrilla Braverman commenting on Keir Starmer's comments about this being or becoming at risk of becoming an island of strangers. Her comments suggesting that there are sections of the community that just don't integrate, don't want to integrate, and therefore This paper now says to support this, we'll introduce a new English language requirement to access broader range of immigration routes for both main applicants and their dependents, to ensure better knowledge of English, including an assessment and improvements over time. How they're going to actually test that and monitor that over time, only time will tell. So obviously there is a lot more to this paper. I've but skimmed the surface. There's a lot more detail in there. Don't take my video as the definitive word. If you really want to understand it, go and read it for yourself. You can find it online. It's 76 pages long. But let me know, do you think this is a bit of a switcheroo with Keir Starmer? Do you think he's really changing tack because he realizes he's out of step with voters and he needs to bring voters back on board? Because now he's still blaming the previous government, which, I mean, he's entitled to do that. And he'd be right, really, because they were in power for 14 years. So, but his comments now, Downing Street's comments now from the UK Prime Minister office on X says, we're ending Britain's open borders experiment. For too long, businesses were actively encouraged to bring lower paid workers rather than invest in our own people. We're fixing the system and restoring control to our borders. Here's how. There's a whole thread there. You can go and read it. But let me know what you think. I think this is a step in the right direction. I think it's going to disproportionately, as some people have already written in to me and commented, I think it's going to disproportionately affect the skilled worker routes and possibly deter a lot of them. I think it's going to penalise a lot of people that are on the legal migration routes. And it doesn't go anywhere near touching and addressing the what I think is what a lot of people are really upset about is the illegal migration routes. To put it bluntly, the benefits and all of the free stuff, we'll call it, the hotels and everything else that they get when they are here and on the asylum route, it doesn't go anywhere close to addressing those. And just yesterday, I think, in response to Nigel Farage in Parliament, who said that many people coming here might just be a terrorist, and you've got Jeremy Corbyn in the background shouting, how do you know? Well, we do know because it's just been revealed and reported that an Iranian was arrested in the terror plot, was an asylum seeker living in taxpayer-funded housing. So we do know that because that is happening. I said a long time ago, it's only a matter of time before something like this happens because it's just statistics. If a significant number of people come here about whom we know nothing from areas, by and large, I mean, they can't have the argument both ways. They can't say that they are coming from an area which is war-torn, and that's the reason they're coming here to claim asylum. You cannot say and argue that, and at the same time, there's no possibility that they themselves might be a terrorist. It's quite clear, statistically, that if they are coming from those areas, they might be one of the bad guys. And so, with so many tens of thousands coming here, about whom we know nothing, it is statistically almost certain, nothing is certain, but it's statistically almost certain that some of these are going to be nefarious in nature, and we're going to end up, as we have had reported just recently, with an Iranian terrorist arrested who was living in taxpayer-funded housing. And as I read in the Standard, he was believed to arrive in Britain illegally via a small boat crossing in the Channel before claiming asylum. Security officials had voiced the concern that the Calais route is increasingly being exploited by state-sponsored Iranian operatives seeking to carry out attacks in the UK. It's feared that others involved in the alleged plot may have reached British shores before using the same method. So this is already a thing. So Jeremy Corbyn in the back of Parliament saying, how do you know? Well, the security services are telling us that this is what's happening. That's how we know. So you have people like that in Parliament shouting silly things whilst someone else is speaking, which I think is a bit rude, which is why I don't like politics, because shouting at someone whilst they're actually making a point in Parliament, just shut up and listen to it. And then if you want to make a comment in response, put it in like you're supposed to put your comments in so that you can stand up and make your comments. Don't just shout it from the back like you're shouting at the back of somebody's head because you don't agree with what they're saying, when in fact it's true, because if you listen to the security services, that's what they're telling you. Anyway, rant over. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please do subscribe to the channel. I'll tell you as it is, as always, and thank you for watching.